Alright, cool. Welcome to week 6 of character design class. This has been an interesting 6 weeks and a learning experience for me about how to run classes. This is the first semester that I've been doing this, and I've been kind of trial and erroring how to teach, what value I get out of teaching, because I'm doing this also for me, not just for the people here. I'm doing this so I can learn, and I can improve, and I can get like art workouts and stuff. So with that in mind, I did some problem solving this week about why I'm not really seeing the results that I want to see with the classes that I'm running. And so I have come up with a better class format that's going to involve us doing lots of drawing. So all my classes here in the future are going to be like coming to the art gym. When you come here, when you come to my classes, any of my classes in the future, unless otherwise noted, be prepared to draw. We're going to be drawing for about 3 hours today. After I go over some homework and stuff that people have added, we're going to be doing character and story-driven gesture drawing. Some people here may be more comfortable with drawing characters and with pushing exaggeration and poses than others, and more comfortable with gesture drawing than others. If you're new to this, that's okay. I want you to play with the figures with observation, with your powers of observation. And you see what I'm drawing right here on the screen. These very, very simple kind of stick figure-y characters with like simple bodies. You can use a model like this, and I'll do like a quick demo in a little bit to give you a model to use to handle the figures we're going to be doing today. This is actually a Glenn Philpott model, by the way, which is fantastic for just quick gesture drawing. But this is what I've been doing to warm up today, just some like rough, loose figure invention and stuff to kind of loosen up. I was looking at an awful lot of photographs I collected, just to give you a little preview of what we're going to be studying from in timed poses today. There's this collection of photos I have here of like tons of character poses, a bunch of cool cyberpunk cosplay stuff, cyberpunk 2077 cosplay stuff in here. Some bodybuilders, some other photos that some people who've done these studies might recognize from figure drawing sites. Other random things like parkour, laser tag, costume figures, fashion photography. There's stuff to play with, stuff to invent things with. So the emphasis on this class is going to be on pushing the story and finding the story of the action, and creating characters, and creating scenes and other things out of it. For the people here who have existing characters that they've been developing, I want you, if you see opportunities to, draw your characters in these poses. Use your character models that you've developed, and use this as an opportunity to practice putting them in different poses. We're going to have a lot to work with because I've yanked a lot of images. I have this set to 30 seconds, but I think that's a bit low. I think I'm going to aim for around 2-minute poses for our first session, but we're going to be doing these in 25-minute blocks with 5-minute breaks. First off, I'm going to take a look at people's homework. Let's see here. So we can get the monitor that I prefer for this. Alright, that one works. Okay, so, I want to get on some chill wave, some royalty-free chill wave. There we go. I think this should work. And if it doesn't, I'll fucking change it. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the homework people have submitted in chat, in Discord chat. There's this guy from last week. I don't know if it looks like you took my feedback. There's some, but there is some issues with how lopsided the figure is here. It looks like his arm is kind of scrunched it looks like his arm is kind of going inside of his gut here, and it looks like his left arm is kind of scrunched inside of his body there. He also doesn't really look like he's standing on his left leg here. But I'll maybe do a quick draw over to show you what I mean. But I did a draw over last week that I tried to emphasize the balance of his figure a little better. I'm not really seeing what I showed you last week. Like I don't really see like the hip tilt versus the shoulder tilt going on here that I suggested. But yeah. So I've seen these. These are really nice. This is by Pencil Shavings 13, right here. These are a bunch of anthropomorphic bird characters based on different species of birds, and I saw them creating these, and these are pretty fantastic. Completely different and distinct from each other. Different personalities. You can tell a little bit about their personalities a bit from each of them. Made an elderly pelican who's seen some shit and even has a scar on his eye. I don't know what species this is, but they're a very regal character right here. One problem that I've noted though is because you used a black background here, it makes it hard to pick out the really black areas right here. I'd maybe use like a mid-tone gray, the kind that you will usually see on the character model sheets, like for Cartoon Network and stuff, for their color models. So that will solve that issue for you in presenting this, because the darker bits get a little harder to see there. Oops. Is my mouse wheel screwing up? Yeah, my mouse wheel's screwing up on this fucking... What? Alright, cool. Thank you, Google Chrome. Very cool. To reopen that, won't I? Yeah, I mean, if there's any character here who's like the Pinkie Pie of this group, it's the cockatiel right here, basically. This is kind of a mellow out, kind of hippie character. Even have him doing a peace sign. It's a little bit of a hippie braids there. I think this is a crow or a raven, but they look like they mean business. This is a very haughty and stout red robin, it looks like, I think. I don't know what species of this is, but they look youthful, like kind of, maybe they might be protagonist material, kind of. This character looks like, want to say like on the romantic end of things. It's hard for me to kind of, this one's actually a little bit ambiguous. Like, I'm not really picking out a personality for this one. I'd like to be interested in finding out what you were trying to go for them, because I was going to say regal, but then this one is way more kind of regal and arrogant and proud. This one's almost kind of like a soldier too, but they also could be termed as like royalty. Like the front of their chest even looks like part of the plating of an armor, a piece of armor almost. Yeah, those are really cool. If I wanted to get nitpicky with them, there's little tiny stuff, like some stuff going on in here with the neck and the shoulder that I would probably fix. But overall, yeah, cool. You could even try playing with pushing the shapes more. This character, I think, is a little generic. I want to learn more about them. And this one, I'm not sure what the personality is you're going for. That might be just me, though. But the other ones, it's pretty clear. And I would maybe even try to see how far you can push them further for your own. If you want to take a shot at that, like push them even further than you already did. And find out where they break when you push them that far, and because you can always pull back from when you break them. Which, I mean, you get increasingly more abstract, and you emphasize the things that you were emphasizing even more and exaggerating them. Okay, let's take a look at this. So this is someone who had some ideas that they wanted to play with, but I think you're going getting a little bit way too ahead of yourself, because I think you need to work on your fundamentals of drawing a lot more before you get more into design, because your designs are not going to hold up unless you have a solid foundation of drawing on which to place them. You can have all the ideas in the world, but if you aren't diligent about practicing and improving your fundamentals, like, these aren't going to hold up. But I'm assuming whoever did this is probably very young and they're just getting started in drawing. I would say attend these classes, and I can suggest resources for you to study, like the Proco YouTube site. The Proco YouTube channel, for example, will give you a good starting point. So will the Drawbox website and so on. Anyway, here's Jabberjock. This is by one of our artistic pros here. He's also getting more into teaching classes lately, and this is really cool. Kind of a woman samurai character. There's a very nice attitude. I like the use of shapes. I would be interested in seeing if you wanted to do more with this character during this session, like what you would do with it, or other characters kind of in this kind of angular style approach that you're playing with here. So if you want to use this session with the character like this, there are going to be quite a few sword poses mixed in with the time poses that I have. So you can try some poses with this character later, maybe, or some more using kind of the style. Let's see here. This guy here. This is looking pretty wonky, but it's I can understand the personality, I guess. There's some issues with like structure and balancing. Like, I'm not really getting a good sense of structure. This area in here feels really flat. I see that you made an attempt to use a sphere with crisscross lines over it to find the eye line. A couple of notes about that. Usually when you use those on cartoon characters, the eyes don't rest on the eye line. They don't rest like directly square in the middle of the eye line. They usually rest above or below it. That's usually something you see in Disney films. So that's something you might want to try out a bit. This pose is looking a little bit better, but it's still got some issues. Like, there's some big issues with how the calves look in relation to each other. I'd say as a sketch, it's kind of okay, but it has major issues on the calves here. I think that a lot of this just comes down to working out your fundamentals, but I do get a sense of this character's personality, except this expression here, some of the expressions here are a little bit vague. If you're doing character expressions, it's strongly recommended that you have a mirror near you and try to do the expressions in the mirror and push them. And try to think of what the attitude is that you're going for. So let's see here. I'm going to maybe do a demo of some of these characters. I might. Depends on how much time I have. Same issue here, though. Like, if you want to get better results in your face drawing, in your facial expressions, use a mirror on your own face. Make the expressions yourself. So this is one by Mad Max. This is a really interesting character that I saw of a flamehead character. Jesus, that's loud. Give me a second here. Getting overpowered by the chill wave there. Alright. Literally just called Flame Boy. So this one is actually, I like the overall idea, but I think there's more polish that needs to go into this for sure. I think there's a lot of stuff that can be simplified, and there's some stuff that's not quite working in the lower body. Like, this feels this feels very straight and flat right here, this leg here, and it doesn't really work. Like, the overall silhouette feels kind of good, but then when I like zero in closer out, like, this leg is thicker than, it's turned sideways, but it's thicker than this leg, and like, it feels like the heel is higher up in the back here than this, which is on the ground plane straight here. There's also some shoulder proportional issues. It feels like this side is like bulged. This side is like shoulder is bulged out a little bit, and the side is like kind of scrunched in there. Like there's kind of a lopsided effect going on with his shoulder, like kind of pulling in tight, pulling inside of his body there. That's something you can notice if you flip your drawings. I do like these head drawing poses though. These are very nice. I think that there is like, I think for handling the hair, you have a general idea of how you're going to do it pretty nicely. And I would be interested in seeing how you simplify it. Like you can use those same similar principles of stylization that you're using with the head there, and there's maybe you can push certain things and simplify how you draw this kind of curly flame hair. I think one thing that might help you a lot, because you have a lot of complicated wrinkles in fabric here that are kind of throwing you off. Break this character down into simple tubes and cylinders, maybe even without the clothes on them, and try to break down their basic shapes before you add the clothes to them, and then build the clothes in in basic shape. Build the shapes that you create with the clothes into basic shapes too before you add any of the wrinkles or anything too. Tubes and cylinders and spheres and boxes and whatnot. See about constructing the character with those basic shapes, and make sure that the shapes don't look lopsided. Another thing I will say is this character is very stiff as a board right here. You can probably get more of a sense of a gestural posture to how they're standing there for this little turnaround. But I think this is a fantastic start for this character, and I'd like to see where you go with this when you take it further. The expression sheet you got here, I think you got a good sense of expressions. I think there's stuff you can push, like when they're angry, you can maybe burst the hair out and the hair gets larger, or when they're sad or feeling withdrawn, their hair flames shrink, for example. Like you could maybe like have the angry hair bursting like way out, and consider how much the hair is going to burst out and contract when they're in different moods. You could maybe even shrink or grow the center of that flame to create kind of a ratio effect. Like when they're feeling more introverted, it shrink like that yellow orange center of the flame shrinks more. Like it would be out here, but then like for awkward, your hair might be kind of normal size, but then like the center of the orange flame might be shrunken. Like this character doesn't have a mouth, so the equivalent of expression of like almost a mouth would be like that little area of orange flame up there, possibly. That's stuff you can think about for this. I do like the idea of playing with smoke too a little bit more. You can probably emphasize that, especially when they're angry. You maybe even play something like when they're depressed, it looks like their head's been doused with water almost, and it's like blowing off steam or something. Let's see. John, so I can finish the homework. Let's see if anybody else added down below just to check. Oh, cool. Pencil Shaving's got some more expressions. I'll check the other homework today. Pigeon's got some pigeon stuff. Yeah. Huh. Some more of the bird theme stuff. I'd say that these are a good start. These are good sketches. I do like the sense of gesture to them, and I see you starting to get a little bit of structure in there. I'm not really seeing anything that's really terrible, other than like you probably take it to the next. Like from here, I'd want to see you maybe do different poses of them and try to develop these more into drawings. A little bit more kind of like what Pencil Shavings did up above here with their bird characters. These are really polished too, by the way. This is with some with input from somebody who has more insight than me, these are pretty close to portfolio ready, I would say. What pencil shading's good. Those are some nice expressions. There's probably some stuff I can suggest on how to push them. Also from pencil shadings. I'm going to go up and check that other one that somebody submitted. So it's this one here, the silhouettes. Yes. I think there was one other one up here, wasn't there? No. I think it was this, and there was like another one. Gosh, there was one that was missed, wasn't it? Or not? Alright, main, secondary character silhouettes. So my first impression on these silhouettes is they're looking very samey, and I really can't tell the difference between them. Like they're very, very close in ratio. Like their hair shapes are different, and there's some costuming elements that are different, but there's not really anything terribly distinct about them. There's also I do see an issue of like kind of a stubby, disproportionate arm here, so you might want to fix that. The head on this guy might be a little bit on the big side too, in proportion to his body. Let's see here. And I don't know anything about these characters just yet. This looks... so I would maybe try to emphasize, like, you can go really wild with this. Like, this Elizabeth character, since they're the tall one, you can make them even taller. This Aiden character, who seems to be the shortest of this trio up top here, and you're emphasizing circle shapes, square shapes with Elizabeth, triangle with Lloyd. I'm not really getting that with Lloyd. There's a triangle shape for his hair, but I'm actually getting more of a triangle shape from Elizabeth because of the cape and because of how their hair is. There is a triangle wedge to Lloyd's hair shape there, but yeah, it's I would want to maybe play with those shapes even more, because they're looking kind of like same body kind of thing. They look too same body. So try to play with their proportions, try to play with their size relationships, and with their with what you emphasize, and also their postures too. Like try to get some more of a sense of the attitude and their personality and their postures. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like you're having some issues with the arms here. Like there's this kind of stubby forearm effect that keeps happening on this arm here, especially. So I'd maybe keep an eye out for that as you're doing more figure drawing, so you can solve that issue. Let's see here. There's these, which are some silhouette explorations of like some robot characters. These are fun, but let's see you do way more of them and get even better at them, and like play with these even more. These are also looking really kind of like lacking in confidence a bit. Like they're a little bit too scribbly around the edges here. Maybe if you could shave off the sides here a bit to clean them up, to make the angles read more. You could get cleaner, more sure angles. There's also other stuff like this, your assuredness in some of the shapes that you're using gets kind of confusing, like around here. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. Is this supposed to be a leg? Is that an arm? Is that supposed to be an arm? It looks very ambiguous here. And there's also this like stuff like this. This character so it looks a little lopsided. I think you're started to get a little bit in the. I think the ones that work a little better here is this one, probably this one, and that one. I'd play with these more and like try to emphasize them a little bit more. Maybe take another pass at the basic ideas that you came up with here and just like make them into basic shapes and try to balance them in a way that feels right, that feels like they're standing a little bit more. But this is do a lot more of these, and you'll probably you'll be able to feel more you'll start to build more confidence in doing this silhouette method for sure. Really, really basic shapes to build robot characters and stuff. Let's see here. Don't know if I actually want to do a draw over demo, but I might see if I can, because I want to actually like jump people right into everyone drawing together. Okay, so this guy is kind of a anarchist chimp, I guess. And the biggest issue I see with this is that it looks like he's about to fall over to the side here. Like he's not very balanced. His feet are kind of look like they're lining up in a single line here too. Like they, you need to think of the ground plane when you place your feet, so that the feet are spaced out from each other, almost like almost like placing the bottom of like a tripod for a camera or something on the floor, kind of. You want to pay attention to where the weight of the body is like being emphasized, and where the center of gravity is. In this case, it looks like the character is about to fall over to the side. I would want for a character like this a dynamic pose that feels like they're ready to spring into action. But I think you got too caught up. I think you got too caught up into the details in this. Like I think this sketch right here, this can be kind of a elements plan for the things you want to play with when you do a more simplified and dynamic version of this character, where you omit more of the details of like the wrinkles of the fabric and stuff, and you concentrate on getting a really like using like a basic stick figure kind of gesture character, like what I was doing warm-ups with earlier, to kind of find a pose that feels right and feels balanced and dynamic before you put the character on it. And I would also try to omit so much detail that you put in, and try to keep it simpler, because you just if you overdo details on a character pose that's not working, you're basically like throwing away a lot of extra work and effort that you could be putting into finding a more effective pose. Let's see here. But I mean, like, I think it's a good start. I want to see what you can do playing with that and loosening. I want you to loosen up more with your figure drawing, so that like you can come back to a character idea like this and get a more like dynamic and well balanced figure. Let's see. This one's a very kind of Tim Burton influenced gothic anime-ish influence. There's some structural issues going on here, but I mean, like, overall the idea is kind of neat. There's some very basic structural issues, like this is a little bit too two-dimensional, and not two-dimensional in a stylized way that really works just yet. It's more in I'm trying to hide my lack of knowledge of anatomy versus I'm abbreviating what I'm drawing. There's also some other things, like there's like some ambiguity in the pose. Like there's not enough of a sense of like a strong pose to this. Like the character looks kind of really awkwardly posed here. They look like they're kind of like tilting over this way a bit. They're standing on this leg, and this leg is up, but like if you look at it, like there's only like maybe a slight tilt here, and then like the pelvis is pretty straight here, and the foot they're lifting off here, it looks like you just kind of copy pasted the other foot to cheat this, and the first foot that you drew does not have a sense of three-dimensionality to it. Like the front of the foot is kind of blunted here. If you want to solve these issues, I would maybe kind of I would kind of make kind of like a cube for the heel of the foot, and then try to work out another cube for the front of the ball of the foot a bit to simplify your shapes. The hand stuff is it looks like you drew a shape and then you added some shapes for the fingers without really understanding the structure. The backpack also, there's some issues with it not really being a 3D shape. It looks like you were trying to make it a 3D shape, but it doesn't quite work. The sleeve, yeah, I mean, like a lot of this is like it's very structural stuff. Like you're trying to go heavy into stylization right now without understanding. Like you're looking at people who understand these rules that I'm talking about of like construction and shape language, but then they're able to abbreviate them and stylize them in interesting ways. Like Robert Valley, we were looking at a little bit last week. I think that you're looking at the frosted cake without understanding the underlying forms of the cake. Like here's some work from Robert Valley. Right here, I think this is Motor City character design right here. But you see, like he does a lot of like really, like heavy stylization. But this is someone who understands the rules of figure drawing really, really well. Like, and so he can make these decisions intelligently. Like this character is really exaggerated and stuff, but they still feel like they're firmly planted in space. That still feels and works like a hand, even though it's like really stylized. This is a guy who's like done extensive like turnarounds of human figures and stuff in order to be able to understand this stuff. So I mean, here's another good lineup of a bunch of characters from Motor City designed by him. At least those two are by him. I think all of these were by him, but it's like it's a similar kind of thing where like, see, like look at this is omitting anatomy. This is like, that's like not even really how a human hand is built. But they made that decision. But this is like the stylization decision of somebody who understands how hands work doing this. So it's not a shortcut, it's a stylistic choice. And they're able to work within that for when they're animating these characters. Like look at that. There's some animator rules on that hand right there. And look at that. This is there's some hand drawing rules going on there of how like the knuckles curve over, and like the curve of the palm there. And they're using some of the rhythms of figure you get from figure drawing for the overall shape of the character there. Like the rhythm of the hand feeds into the forearm, and that feeds into the bicep and the underarm, and that feeds into the torso and the body, and so on. Makes for a very dynamic sketch there. And this one, like the lines here are basically going into kind of a pseudo perspective here. Like the vanishing point would be somewhere down over that way on this character. Like I think the eye line on this guy is somewhere around his waist, or where the camera would be placed. That would be my judgment. He's standing pretty straight on, but that's okay for this, for that pose, because that's like a kind of a model pose, I think. But yeah, these are like heavily like stylized hands. Like this is not how a human hand is at all. But if you try running into drawing your hands this way without understanding how hands work, you're going to have a bad time. And you can also even see elements of stylization in head drawing. That's a side plane to the head right there. This someone who designed this understands how heads work. And that's a side plane. His head is almost like a cube. And then like there's a tooth cylinder inside there. There's depressions inside the eyes. This is a heavily two-dimensionally stylized character, but plausibly you could still adapt a design like this to work in 3D. There's problems you'd have to solve to make it work in 3D, but he could. Because there's an underlying logic to it. But anyway, yeah, there's no shortcut to this kind of stuff. Like, we're going to be going over some of it tonight. But I think your design choices are fun. I think you're playing with you're playing with stuff that's going to come in handy later. I would want to, like, for you, just double down on just like tons and tons of figure drawing. Just make that your new religion. Make figure drawing and fundamentals drawing your new religion, because then like this fun stuff you're playing with here is going to be so much more satisfying for you to draw and create. Let's see here. Because that, I mean, that is a fun character. I'd love to see what can happen when you clock in a bunch of figure drawing mileage with characters like this. I went over the birds. This character is also having a lot of common figure drawing issues. Like you can see a little bit in that calf there that's kind of bulging. The ground plane is also not. Looks like you're trying to fake the ground plane without actually working it out. Because that foot is looking like two-dimensionally flat there instead of like it's standing on the ground. Yeah, I want to kind of move on. I would want to normally. Pigeon, I'll try to give you some more notes later, but your redesign unfortunately kind of missed the point of what I was trying to go for last week. I want you to emphasize constructing your character out of well-balanced basic shapes. This one has actually gotten more overly complicated, and I don't think you had the understanding and it's okay, because you're just learning. I don't think you have quite the understanding just yet of how 3D shapes work. This character is now looking like they're going to fall over to the right side here. But so I would dial back what you're doing to simplicity, and try to just like construct things out of basic cylinders and spheres and boxes when you're making your character, and try to keep them fairly well balanced, because you had a good thing going, and I don't want you to necessarily overcomplicate stuff at this stage. This character, similar issues. There's a lot of people run into the feet being a problem. I notice the feet and the legs and the calves. I'm going to be emphasizing those in some of our future figure drawing sessions. Pigeon, I already got to you, so I'm going to try to move on a bit. These are cool, but they're. I want to get more in depth on some of these, but I really want to move on. That's cool. Let's see here. So I actually want to, hand practice references. I think these are CG. Are these CG poses? Like CG sculpts? Yeah, these are CG sculpts. They're good hand poses, and these wouldn't necessarily be bad to practice from. There is something kind of weird going on with this one. Like, I mean, it is a double jointed hand that's bending backwards, but there's something kind of uncanny valley going on here with this one, so I'd be careful about that one. The other ones feel pretty nice. These feel pretty nicely elegant for practicing from, I would say. Be careful when you're practicing from CG stuff, because sometimes it can go pretty uncanny valley looking. Like, I'm not too sure about this hand right here. Closed fists tend to be kind of problematic for realistic CG hands. These other ones are pretty nice though. Like, I like that. There even feels like there's a compression going on here between the thumb and the middle finger there. Yeah, Pigeon, don't be discouraged about what I said. I'll try to show you some, like, the kind of what I'm talking about is like, let's see here, making like Fleischer model sheet. Let me see if I can find a good example. What I want you doing, Pigeon, is I want you to try to, let me see if I can find a good example here. Maybe Cuphead has some good model sheets. I don't know if it's an official one. Model sheet. Like the art book model sheet might have something. Nope. It's not official art. Some of this is fan art, so I'm going to ignore some of this. All right, flash like Disney model sheet, Mickey. But what I'm talking about is I want you to think about your characters in terms of really simple construction, in simple shapes, kind of like what Mickey is right here. Like, omit the details. Like, you want to like not draw any of the details initially and get like this working before you like really add in a lot of other stuff. You want it to feel balanced, and you want it to feel even when you're drawing it in really basic shapes and gesture lines and stuff. You want the character to feel well balanced in their posing, and you want them to feel kind of dimensional and volumetric. And the best way to do that is to keep things really simple. Like I don't mean add like tons of frilly stuff and frilly details and things like that. I mean, always think about the character three-dimensionally, and think about how they are constructed. Like, here's a really good example on Pete here. You can see there's this giant kind of bean shape for his body, and they even have a center line going over it, and parts of the body that connect right here. You can see where they show how it connects three-dimensionally through the form. You can see how his head is constructed out of simple spheres with lines over him. And his muzzle is constructed out of like simple sphere shapes, and so on. You want to think in like these really simple terms that you can keep track of, and you can balance it. You can balance out and make into good, simple, clear posing. You don't want to cheat and make stuff look flat. You want to work that stuff. Oh, thank you. Ezra Prisk posted a Cuphead model sheet thing. But anyway, so what I'm doing here on these pages here is a little bit along the lines of what I want people here doing. Aside from like the people who are a little bit more advanced, who can do a little bit more what they want, like. So I'm going to maybe give an example right here from this muscle man of what I kind of want people here doing for this session. So we got this muscle man here up in the upper right. And we're going to be doing time poses from the gesture drawing app that I've got up here on the right. We'll do about 4 to 5 sessions of 25-minute poses. I'll maybe set them for about 2 to 5 minutes or so per pose. I think that's like 2 to 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. I want to keep them a little bit long because a lot of people are kind of not used to the pace of this sort of thing. But we'll see. So let's see here. I just want to make sure that this is running the way I want it to run. Get rid of the chat. I'm using an app here to kind of work some stuff out. Alright, so for that guy in the upper right, this is what I'm going to be having people here who are kind of new to this sort of thing doing. So what I want you to do is I want you to start with a head sphere like this. Then I want you to draw kind of, well, let's actually use the angle of his head. Then I want you to kind of do a little ellipse inside the head sphere. This like kind of like egg-shaped thing here with an ellipse inside of it. Like there's a front and a back to the ellipse, kind of. Then I want you to add kind of a neck to it like this. Just a little sieve curve like that. Not anything special or detailed. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to kind of like feel out sort of a line of action for the lower body. like using the model as reference and stuff. And maybe push it a little bit beyond what you see, just a little bit. Like, let's kind of follow this a bit. So we're looking up there. I want you to mind the tilt of the hips and the shoulders. So this guy looks like he's kind of doing a very deceptive sort of tilt, but it's there. I'm going to maybe exaggerate that tilt. I'm going to say his hips are tilted this way. So I want to counterpose his pose here. I'm going to say his shoulders are tilted this way. Because he's a big muscle man, I'm going to maybe emphasize the side of his body like this, in this very simple kind of muscle man shape right here. But it's not anything special. It's just kind of this bulging out sort of thing. So I'm literally just creating, like, if this guy was a skinny guy, I'd be doing this. Just a kind of a box shape like that. That's symmetrical, but I can bend it any which way I want, like that. I'm doing it like that, and then the next thing I do is I add the legs. So I'm going to use like big gesture lines for the legs, big stick figure gesture lines, like so. And the feet, I'm just going to keep as kind of like these little sort of almost kind of cartooned sort of things. I just want like an indication of it. Like I'm not too worried about anything anatomical at this point. I just want something that feels kind of right for where the foot is. And maybe I'll add in like indications of the knee. That. Let's maybe like track it to the other knee here, something like that. And then because for the purposes of this pose, I'm going to be pretending that his leg is foreshortened. I'm going to maybe add a little indication of like a cylinder of the thigh coming towards us like that. But anyway, I'm not going to get too detailed with the legs. I'm going to move on to the arms. So for the arms, I'm going to do just simple lines for the posture of the arms. I'm not even worried about like adding mass to his muscle right now. Just want like an indication of where his fist is pressed against his body right here. Keeping this really, really simple. Maybe like connect up the lines here a bit. And then do something like that too for the gesture of the flexing bicep here. And so the point of doing this is to communicate something, or to find an angle by which to communicate something with the pose. Like I'm searching for tidbits of personality and tidbits of things like weight and posture and attitude and physicality. Like I kind of feel good about how he's planted his foot there. There's probably more I could do with it, but I basically invented a pose using this guy. It's not exactly what the pose is that he's taken on there, but it's my own design, kind of riffing off of what I'm seeing there and adapting to it a bit. And I use very, very simple shapes. Just remember this procedure. Start with a head, start with a neck, then you design that. You use a line of action to design this kind of wafer body. Think of it like a kind of a cracker, a bendable graham cracker. kind of a bendable graham cracker that's like right there. You get the head, the neck, body, the legs and the feet, and then the arms. And to keep it very simple. If you want to take things a little bit further than this though, here's what you can do. Instead of doing like lines like this, you do parallel lines like that. There's a C-curve for the neck. I'm going to do the body now. I'm going to maybe do a center line for the torso here, but then after doing this for my legs, instead of doing lines like that, I do a couple parallel lines like for the thigh. And then, because it's bending at the knee here, I do a couple more parallel lines bending like that for this particular pose that I'm designing here. And you can follow this logic all the way down to the foot. You can do that, use that for the other leg like that. Let's say like this leg is kind of, it's going to go off the page here, but let's just say like the foot is over that way somewhere. And there's no indication here of the knee, but if I wanted to add one, I could, like that. Maybe like angle the side plane of the leg right here a little bit. And then for the arms, I can do the same thing. A couple parallel lines right here, coming off the torso. And you just keep it very, very simple, like that. That's if you want to take this further. So this is what I want beginners doing right here, this kind of like stick figure guide. This is a, if you have Glenn Villepeu's drawing manual, this is very close to the way that he approaches the figure. This is also another approach. I forget if Villepeu goes over this approach in his book, but this is closer to a Steve Houston approach to doing the figure. And what's cool about this method is you can very easily like create structure on this character by simply like adding endpoints, like 3D endpoints or 3D cross-section points to these kind of parallel lines to turn them into tubes and to turn them into cubes and other things. But don't worry about, keep things very simple. You're looking for making a simple statement with these poses. I'm going to have people do timed poses in a little bit. We'll give it about maybe 2 or 3 minutes before we start. But maybe kind of like run down an inventory real quick of this approach. Just remember like a 5-step approach. Like head, neck, torso with the line of action here, legs, and arms. And repeat that over and over again on all these poses tonight. You can do these quickly too. I'm going to be maybe timing these out for like 2-minute poses to start with, but if people are feeling comfortable with it, I might move to 1-minute poses. These can be done in like 30 seconds. There's even such thing as like 5 and 10 second posing. That gets really crazy. But you can use this method to invent poses. Like as your visual library improves from seeing lots of poses and drawing lots of poses, you can start to play with how the figure would move and bend around in space. This kind of character that's doing this kind of weird off, like mid-gestured, like running, dancing pose here that I kind of threw together. But yeah, so in a little bit we're going to be starting the figure poses, and I also want to show you another thing. When you start getting used to this method, I want you to look for ways to insert character and story into these poses. I don't want you to, if you are wrestling with the basics of using some of these gesture drawing methods, I want you to just concentrate on that and try to search for like the core attitude and sense of weight and action and balance or whatever to the character first and foremost. But when you get further along with feeling more comfortable with it, I want you to start playing with character, like trying to create characters out of it. Let me see if I can find some examples of work I've done previously. Alright. Here we go. This here's some stuff from a gesture drawing class I did, like I think back in 2015 or 2014 or something. Bring that up. This is from a live figure model that I drew. I came up with I sort of developed the character design model for this live model that we were drawing physically in the class. Like came up with different ways of pushing it. Like this isn't exactly how she looked. This is like pushed beyond it. It has to be because it's stylized. Like these are like for very, very short poses right here. Like you can see like I'm using a very abbreviated version of the method that I'm talking about here, where like I'm actually kind of making like very, very cuneiform Japanese character looking basic lines for the figure. These are like for very short poses. I think this was like a page. This is either a page of 30 seconds or ones. There's some longer poses on this page too. But yeah, I mean this is the kind of stuff you can do when you get more into this. You create characters out of the figures you're drawing. You also don't even have to create a character out of the costume that they're wearing. As I did here, you can invent your own characters based on them. Like this guy here, I went really out there with some of these, with trying to push exaggerating physical features and stuff, and even adding in like storytelling stuff with like that zombie down there, gravedigger things. Adding in props. Some of these were props he actually had, like he actually had a newspaper for that pose. This is getting even more into kind of like expressionistic stylization here. Using a pastel, and then going back over with I think a Prismacolor pencil to kind of pick out areas to emphasize. Really, really pushing the storytelling, the acting, and so on. There's another page. This is actually like, these down here are all from the same model, right here. I was trying to like go for kind of a Ralph Steadman, if you're familiar with that cartoonist who did like The Fear of Loathing in Las Vegas art. I was trying to emulate his style a little bit in my own way with these. So I riffed off of what the figure model was doing, using like Sharpies and color, a pair of Sharpies, like a red Sharpie and a black Sharpie, and kind of really pushed and invented my own characters out of them and stuff. And this is an example of, I started a little bit more kind of restrained with this costume figure model that was live in the class, pushed a little more, pushed it more, and so on. And I also like tried to incorporate some of the ground plane here on these ones. Yeah. So in the future, in my classes, teaching this stuff, I will be giving more of the tools of how to draw story poses and character poses like that. For the time being, use the Glenn Villepeu method that I've been showing for the newcomers here. But if you feel comfortable with creating your own characters and your own scenes and stuff, if you're a good ways along and if you're pretty intermediate to advanced, I want you to try inventing characters and scenes and stuff, and maybe even using your own character designs on stuff. But if you're a newcomer, I would strongly recommend sticking with what I showed you, because it's very, very liberating to just concentrate on this. Like, this can get you to the finish line. Like, I just invented this figure right here. And that's just from my visual library of having seen a lot of poses and kind of having a good sense of weight and form from all the figures I've drawn for years. And I'm going to be getting some more mileage here tonight with all of you. I'll be doing some of these. I might be doing some character poses. I'm going to do what I think would be valuable for me to do and emphasize and to try and to push. So I'm going to be learning alongside all of you and practicing alongside all of you, and we are going to start very shortly. So get your pencils ready, everyone. Let's get going. Okay, Google, set a timer for 1 minute.
1 minute, starting now.
So I'm going to make sure that I get this set up the proper timing that I want first. I think I'm going to put it on 2 or 3. I think my instinct is telling me that these should be 3-minute poses to start with. So we'll probably do that. Let's see here if I can alter the time, or do I have to start a new session? I think I have to start a new session. So no, the presets won't let me go to 3, but I know that you can set it to 3 if you want. So we'll stick with 2s for this first session here. Okay. So after the Google timer goes off, we'll get started. Okay, Google, stop. All right, get ready, everyone. We're going to just dive right into this. All right, so that's a costume figure with a face obscured. I'm actually going to skip this one. This one is a little bit more of a clear gesture. So I'm going to start. I'm actually going to shift the camera focus here so that people can see more of the reference that's on screen. So I'm going to maybe put on some chill wave, or did I pause what was already on? I think I did. Alright, yeah, I can turn up the music a little more on the royalty-free chill wave. Yeah, I hope people get a lot out of this, even if they're not necessarily comfortable with this to start with. I want to find out from you what you're struggling with, because I'll be taking that into account for how I teach more of this class in future sessions. But the emphasis on these classes, I'm probably still going to do character design critiques and stuff, and maybe maybe make more time for drawovers. But I want to do a lot of what we're doing right now. Every time you come here, we're going to be doing gesture drawing and story-driven stuff. Emphasizing quick poses and storytelling. One thing that will definitely help with that in the future, I'm going to try to set up my folders so that like stuff are more grouped by a particular theme. Right now, it's a lot of stuff I yoinked from the internet that is kind of randomly shuffled. So just kind of give us an overview of things. But in the future, I want to have like prepared folders of like, there's photo packs of characters, like character themed figure model pose sessions, costume themed figure pose sessions. And I want to get a hold of several of those. I found some of them earlier, but I want to get a hold of several of those and then group them so that people can concentrate on a single subject for a session, a single model that they can play with. If not for the whole class session, then for, oh god, that is, I don't like that music. Wow, it's getting bad. I'm gonna see if I can find some better chill wave mix here. There might be a chill wave mix that we played previously here that might work. Oof. Well, if anyone has any royalty-free stream vibes they can suggest in chat that I can play, I'd really appreciate that, because, ugh. Alright, so let's see here. Well, I'll try this one. But I prefer something kind of in a chill wave vein, if anyone has any suggestions. It has to be royalty-free stuff, because I can't have, like, audio samples in the middle of a Vaporwave track giving me a copyright strike when I upload this to YouTube later. So I'm mostly just getting warmed up now. I might try putting more character posing stuff on these figures the further I get into this. But for the time being, I'm kind of like gauging myself on what I can do in the time that I have. And sort of refreshing my knowledge of like the Glenn Villepeu approach to gesture drawing. If you have a copy of Glenn Villepeu's drawing manual, it'd be a good idea to refer to it if you want to utilize this method more in depth. With the basic idea of it, of breaking down the body into simple kind of gestural shapes, should be something that newcomers should be able to pick up on and try playing with. Like, don't overwhelm yourself, keep it simple. You're emphasizing the importance of the action of what you're seeing. Like, think about the physicality of what's happening. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, just try to wrap your head around the action that's happening in front of you. The attitude, the weight, the sense of peril, in this case, of the parkour person who's mantling up on against a high wall. If I was in a more storytelling frame of mind, I might do something like I might draw some dogs barking at their heels down below. Or I might draw like a helicopter above them or below them or something. So don't worry about making accurate, pretty drawings. I want you to kind of feel these out The goal here is to kind of understand and try drawing poses you've never drawn before. To wrestle with them, to try to simplify them, to try not to overcomplicate them. Oh, I'm going to skip that one. It was a little bit too... There we go. So future sessions of this will be more structured in how we're doing them, but I'm kind of just giving people an overview of what things are going to, well, of what we're going to be doing in future classes. We will be meeting at the same time next week because I'm not going to stop this kind of class. I'm restructuring the classes that I currently have to emphasize doing. Demoing and then doing, where we spend several hours, or like 3 hours tops, I would say, doing basically this. Timed figure poses can be long poses or short poses on the subject we're studying. I'm currently looking at the possibility of doing an animal drawing class, a long figure pose, an anatomy class, and continuing the head drawing class that I've been teaching on Mondays, which will be repeating information that we've already gone over to re-practice it and re-memorize it, in addition to building and layering on what we've already done in that class. We'll be getting more into feature construction next, in addition to, of course, reviewing the previous stuff we went through. We're going to be doing an awful lot of drawing heads from observation in timed poses. That will become a very regular thing from now on. I believe this is one of the Japanese fashion photography photo sets I found. If you get a lot of like clothes that are covering up parts of the body, you can just omit parts of the body and just emphasize like the general posing of the figure, like what I'm kind of doing now. I'm not even really worried about the mass of the clothes right now, because what I want to concentrate on is those kind of cuneiform-y figures. So I think what's happening here is this figure model has her arm. Yeah, there it is. Her fingers are down. Her fingers of her arm are down near her buttocks. It's a little hard to see. It almost looks like she doesn't have an arm because of where the armrest is on that chair. But it's there. Try to notice things like that you can potentially stylize. You may not be able to pull off stylizing it now, but you can maybe try it. Try dipping your toes in it. Like, I kind of like the way that her leg loops around her body like that, the outer leg. And if I was in a more in tune way of drawing right now, I would probably maybe try to emphasize that more. But I do have this pose saved, so if I wanted to try that later, I could. This is a very exaggerated and dynamic pose, but you can make it very easy on yourself by just starting with a C-curve like that, like I just did. There we go, there's the other leg right there. I'm just keeping things simple here. Let's add the head. The head is, the top of the head is, I'm going to add that little dot there to show what the top of the head is about. I got kind of the ellipse that's inside the sphere there. Maybe I'll let's see, what direction is her hips tilting? You can see kind of her buttocks a bit. It's a little bit. This is a really tricky pose. We can see the front of her pelvis and her buttocks. I'm going to make a judgment call, and I'm going to emphasize the visible plane being her buttocks, even though I can see her pelvis in the picture. I'm just going to put like a little box shape in there for about where I think the pelvis is. Remember, you're doing these to try to understand stuff and to try to practice your sense of designing a pose. So these aren't meant to be pretty drawings. These are to expose you how to break down a pose and understand what you're seeing and redesign it a bit. So let's maybe do this over the top of the C-curve line I made. There we go. I'm going to need a new page soon. So this lady has a nicely emphasized S-curve going on with her body. So maybe see if I can capture that a little bit. Just go all the way down the body for this one, instead of breaking it up. And you can do that too. You don't have to follow the step-by-step approach every single time. Like you can do what I did right here, where I did a head and then I did like a... So I really wanted to find that line of action throughout the body, down through the leg. I did that. And I'm going to maybe kind of design her other leg out here. Oops, I don't like that actually. I'll do this. It changes direction here where the foot is. And I can add another foot here, like that. So she's got this arm that's kind of raised up here. It's reaching back for her hair. And I'll do like this for her hair, just this little kind of S-curve. And her other arm, I'll do kind of a C-curve here. Changes direction here for the bending of the arm there. And then I didn't draw it initially, but this is the tilt that I've chosen to go with for her shoulders. And let's see, where should I put the tilt for the pelvis? Maybe about here. The top of the pelvis or something like that. And as a finishing touch, I'll do this kind of hourglass crisscross over the front of the body. So we get another pose coming up here in a second. Yeah, it's a really kind of flowy pose and really dynamic looking fabric for this figure model. I'm going to push the face up a little bit higher than it is in the pose, just because I like that. And I'm going to maybe push the pose forward even more in its bend. Get like this C-curve here for the arm. Terminate it for the hand up there. I think it's a little bit far out. I'll put it here. I shouldn't be Control-Zing so much, actually. Just really committing a little bit more. But let's see here. This model is doing some interesting things with her legs under that dress. I hope I have enough room to draw this, but I'm going to kind of try to interpret what I'm seeing there with her knee. hand there. Her feet kind of on tippy toe, going pigeon-toed a bit. Like the top of the pelvis there, like that. The other thigh there, calf there, and in hindsight maybe move the palm about here or even closer than that. Maybe I'll just pretend her arm is back, her other arm is back there. Alright, I think I'm going to get a new page. I'm starting to run out of room and it's sort of cramping me a bit. So we're going to skip this one. I think I picked a bad image for that last one, so I'll be removing some of these from my folder later. But this is a good pose. Nice big dynamic bodybuilder, classic bodybuilder pose. Concentrating a little bit because I kind of want to try a few things with this dude. Let's see here. So I really like the weight that's emphasized on this leg. So I'm going to use a double C curve that's kind of bending here. Sort of emphasizing how much weight is on that leg, holding up all that beef. And then comparatively this leg, it's almost kind of like a ballet pose. Bodybuilders, like this guy, like competitive bodybuilders, are very graceful people. They're very much in control of their physique, so they have to show it off. You wouldn't think that, but these guys have a tremendous amount of dexterity and grace. So that one's a little bit kind of, I don't really like this pose. We'll maybe skip this one. There we go. So how many poses is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Alright, we're going to do 2 more poses. This will be the second to last pose in this block of poses. We'll do one more after this one. And then we'll take a 5-minute break. And I'll answer some questions and stuff. I've drawn this guy before too. Whoops. I've actually seen this guy come up a lot in drawing demos. Like, it seems to be a favorite. This guy seems to be a favorite reference pose for artists practicing figure drawing. And also, when you're doing these, you can kind of build on what you're doing. Like, what I did with that leg kind of bending right there, really emphasizing the weight there. And then maybe try for that, a little bit of that on this guy. And I'm going to be doing also a little something that I'll talk a little bit more about later or during this session a bit. I'm using a couple of spheres here for the torso. Whoops, I actually don't like that. Go back a bit. I'm using a couple of spheres here for the torso. Where I emphasize one side that is being scrunched, kind of like that, and one side that is being stretched. Of course, I wound up making this guy look a little fat because of that, but I wanted to try it. So I don't think it's very successful, because I haven't warmed up in that method yet. But anyway, this is our second last pose. So do your best on this one. When you get a weird ballet pose like this, you're going to start with a C curve for the line of action of the body. A really simple C curve like what I'm doing on screen right now. Her body's almost like a question mark. I think I can even do it like this a little more. And then I can erase this. I'm looking forward to when I'm able to do this stuff traditionally and maybe film it as I'm doing it. Because when I'm working in a Sharpie that I can't erase, it forces me to commit to what I'm interpreting. And that is a good exercise for animators in particular. Making smarter decisions with your lines and your designs in the time that you have. And for the fun of it, I'm going to add maybe just like a little indication of some of the shape of the gesture of her hair and the fabric. And we are on break now, so I'm going to pause this right here. And I'm going to shift it back to, I'm just going to leave it there, but actually, let's see here. I'll emphasize my screen a little more. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
Sure, 5 minutes. And that's starting now.
So this guy started out kind of good, but then I kind of got distracted a bit, and so I don't really like how the torso turned out. There's some stuff in his leg that I sort of like. This could have gone a little better, but no big deal. I do like how this guy turned out, though. I do like how the leg does feel like it has weight on it, and the other one is a little more dainty. This one is a pretty good start, I would say. The question marky sort of gesture that I started with the C curve for the body. This one I got a little abbreviated for the side of the page, and the other poses near it. That one I'd say successful, and I snuck in a little bit of practice on a box for the pelvis. Yeah. Good first session. So let's take a look and feel free to post your own stuff in chat. Yeah, let's take a peep. Mahler's got some good starts. Some of these you can probably, like this guy right here, looks like this guy isn't as dynamic as he should be, I would say. I'd say that one's a little bit more successful. The bodybuilder guy you could really emphasize and push more. A lot of these need to be pushed more, that's the main thing. The good starts. I think these are getting a little bit too complicated, when you're kind of getting more into shapes that you're kind of like fitting. You're kind of like, here, look, like you can really see it on like that back leg of this character right here. Like what is this connected to? This looks like it'd be connected to a hip that's down here, but the hip is up here. I'd say that this one is a little bit more successful right here, and this one. So try to keep them more in the ballpark of those two, I'd say. That one's a little better, but there's still problems going on. I want you to try to attack some of the stuff you have problems with that you notice in your regular drawing when you're doing these. But roll it back to simplicity as much as possible, so you're not because if you try overdrawing into them a little bit too early when you're just emphasizing gesture right now, you'll just wind up reinforcing bad shape construction and bad placement of stuff like that, for example. That was the first drawing of the sessions, to be fair. Oh, it's Pigeon that did that. Jeez. These are pretty good for a 13-year-old, my dude. So don't worry about me being too harsh on you there. Yeah, this one I think you got a little bit too caught up in trying to make volumes on it, and I think you should maybe peel it back a bit. You tried to do biceps and anatomy that you don't really have understanding of quite yet. I'd keep the parallel lines thing that I was talking about if you are going to add anything to this. But I think, and also like try to make smoother lines with the smoother, more confident lines with the starting figure. This guy is kind of getting really all over the place a bit. It looks like that arm is just way out there, and I think you're adding too much structure onto this. Well, not structure onto this, but you're adding too much detail of the outside of the figure onto this when you should be concentrating on the gestures. This person is trying to make a character here. It's a good first attempt, but I would mind where you're placing the feet, and include like a 3D ground plane down there so you can place the feet properly. The upper body, I like the tilt and the arm line of action sweet, but the arm posing, especially this limb here, needs a little work. This guy, I like the upper body and I like how the foot is planted, but this leg right here, something feels kind of off about. Okay, Google, stop. I wanted to go into more of these, but we're going to start another session now. So, I'm going to have us do more twos, because I think we're off to a good start with these. Oh, these are nice. Yeah, very simple, very clean and quick. I would say that you can just try to keep pushing and playing with these more. There's stuff you're doing that is a little bit kind of weird, like this arm here doesn't. That feels a little short, but just try to keep an eye out for stuff like that feels a little weird. Alright, so we're going to do another session of twos. I'll just keep going here and start where we left off. Okay, Google, set timer for 25 minutes.
25 minutes, and that's starting now.
Oops, I gotta switch emphasis of the OBS real quick. There we go. Let me restart the timer for folks. There we go. So this model here is a very, if you know what you're looking at, there's a very clear shoulder tilt and a very clear hip tilt counterposed to each other. I'm going to emphasize these for this one, for how I just choose to interpret it. So the weight of the body is going on this leg here. I'm going to choose to draw it like this, where like there's a kind of a bent wire sculpt for about where the knee is there. I think I will do a straight line down here to the heel. And for the foot, I'll just do an indication here. For the other leg, I'll keep it simple. Do something like this. So maybe include a little cube for the heel here. Maybe use that as a basis to create more of a ground plane right here. And add more to this foot to kind of make the ground plane work a little better. And now I can take care of the limbs up here. How much time do I got? 20 seconds. So I'm just going to include just the basic gesture of the limbs. This one's lower than the other one, even though the arm is bent. Maybe a kind of an egg shape for the upper rib cage. A tilted box for the pelvis. And there we go. Alright. So this figure is leaning against the wall. I actually feel like on this one I want to start maybe with the foot and work up for the line of action. So I'll do this. And then I get like a tip tilt here. I got the other leg here. And the heel's kind of going behind the leg back there, so I'll do that. Let's keep it really simple. Add an indication of the foot that's kind of turning a little bit to the left, but not really. Maybe I'll include a little bit of an indication of the perspective grid back here that the foot is on. And you can use that grid back there as a guideline for like playing with like some loose perspective, like the lines of that. I think it's like the front of a garage door or something like that, or siding of a building. It's a bunch of lines in perspective for anyone who understands perspective here. You can use those lines to find a vanishing point for this if you were going that far into a pose with something like this, but I'm just adding a little bit of an indication of it just to get a little bit of perspective in there. You want to look for opportunities to exercise perspective when doing these for sure. Like, you don't necessarily have to wrestle with every single rule or every single drawing principle at once when you do short poses like these, but getting like a few drops here and there of different things that you want to maybe kind of make notes of or do quick abbreviated versions of is a good approach to take. But yeah, pigeon, you're just a kid, and those were really good for being a 13-year-old kid. So you have nothing to be ashamed of. You have plenty more of this kind of stuff to look forward to. Not that anyone would have anything to be ashamed of, no matter what skill level you are, no matter what age you are. I could care less about someone's age. It's always impressive when like a young person like starts off their art career really strong, or their art journey very strong. But I could care less about age when it comes to people that want to dedicate themselves to getting better. And everyone learns at their own pace too, for any number of reasons. If you're coming here to get an art workout, good. You're in the right place. So this one is a pose that just happened to have apparently a demo of how to drawn onto it, of how to emphasize a compression side on the torso versus a stretch side. You can see a center line there and a kind of angular compression, a more stretched out side there. So if you want to, you can try to emphasize that in your gesture drawing here for this. Let's see how far along I can get in this guy. Maybe I'll really push this dude. Like, he has a tilty torso. Maybe I'll really push it. Just really bow out that C curve. It's really wide. Notice I've been making the heads really small on this page. These are almost like fashion model proportions, the ones that I've done down there. I didn't really mean to do that. So I maybe want to watch out for that. Really bow that out. Now let's keep like a kind of a single line here for that back leg gesture. Maybe I'll make the tilt of the pelvis more like that. And remember what I did with the bodybuilder's leg. I'll kind of see if I can play with a sense of weight on that leg a little bit. I don't think it's that successful, but let's see what I can do to play with this some more before the time is up. A lot of this is going to be like playing with stuff to see what happens if you do things a certain way. I don't know if we'll do this one. This is there's a lot of complicated shapes in that guy. It's a cool cosplay though. Alright. So this is a model that's very covered up by the fabric that she's wearing, but you can still find a gesture for her pose and try to design something through it. When you get complicated poses like this, just simplify. Like, look what I'm doing. I just made like just a ball for the head, added an ellipse to the down tilt for the ball, and I've drawn like this line across the body here. Very simple line. And I notice that her torso's point is tilted forward, so I'm just going to do this little gesture line here. And then her legs almost look like straights there with how they are on her body. I'm not too worried about getting her legs in right now. I just want to get like the idea of her pose. So I'm just going to think about the pose in terms of being a Japanese cuneiform. And do like a straight line down, almost like I'm bending a paper clip or something. And then I'm going to see where I want to go from here. Like, should I add another leg? I don't have to. Maybe I'll add a little egg shape for the torso. Maybe I'll add a little approximated pelvis where I think the pelvis should be. Maybe I'll add some cylinders here for where I think the wrists are. And I'll just do like the fabric hanging from her, just like an indication of the fabric here. Just kind of playing with it. I've got the idea of her pose down, and I'm just playing with it without overcomplicating it. And these are to understand. And that's all I've done for that one. I just did a little bit of an exercise where I didn't try to do everything at once, and I just tried to take little bits and pieces from that to absorb. So this is a really nice pose, so I can do more with this pose-wise, because the pose is very clear without any clothes covering up the body the way the last one was. So I'm going to add that very clear shoulder and hip tilt that's going on there. Add some just simple gesture lines for the leg and the foot here. And look at that, we have a nice ground plane with that, with those floorboards there. You can use that in your drawing. So how should I handle the leg? Maybe as a single gesture line. Maybe not coming out from there, like more like here. Going out there and then kind of curving inward down the bottom. And then it looks like the foot on the screen right is forward a little bit further than the other one. So I'll make sure the tiptoes are out there ahead a bit. And I'll do kind of like an overlapping shape thing where her torso is bending and then stretching on this side. Now I can add her arm, and I'm going to do the dual cylinder thing for her arm here. The dual parallel line thing for her arm right here, just because I feel like it. And now I'll do some concentric circles right here for the foreshortening of her hand. And as a final touch, add that little wand that she had, or whatever she was holding there. Do kind of a magical girl pose or something, I think. Scepter. Or staff or something. This is a very heavily stylized pose of a real person doing cyberpunk cosplay. For this one, it's going to be a vignette because all we have is a photo of the upper body. So I'm going to emphasize that head tilt and more of the head, and then maybe create kind of more of a volume for the torso because that's going to be overlapping the hips, but I want the gesture here. A little bit more. Just kind of working through this and improvising, using what I've been kind of building up to this point a bit with. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to emphasize a gesture of her hand a little bit. Like, just gestures for the fingers, something like this. Nothing fancy. Just a little dipping my toes into some hand drawing without getting into details. Her hips are kind of going this way, and her shoulders are kind of going this way. Just make an emphasis note of that, and emphasize the up tilt of her head again. Maybe add the shape of her hair before I move on. Yeah. This guy, I can find an instant C curve starting with his palm on that ledge there, and then out like that. Big old C curve. And then I can find another C curve for the gesture of his body here. This is where it starts looking like Japanese cuneiforms. And from that, I can start playing with it further. Let's add maybe like a little indication of about like where his tilted hips would be, like the top of his pelvis. Let's add maybe like the cylinder for the thigh as it connects to his hips. So maybe the end of his kneecap would be about here. Something like that. Let's add some lines there. Let's maybe do some concentric circles down here. Kind of play with the volume here to understand the volume that I'm drawing. Do it all the way up the arm. Now I got this kind of torso egg that's leaning forward a bit, and I got his head over here. And I've kind of realized that I've kind of screwed myself at the top of the page there, so I'm going to pull that down a bit. But that's pretty much all I want to do with that. It's not a complete pose, but it's playing with elements of that last pose. So we got a new one here now. This guy, I'm going to try to see if I can get the whole gesture in a pretty nice stylized calligraphy approach. So we got a definite ground plane, so I'm going to kind of do this kind of circular thing that's kind of carving out a 3D shape in the ground right here, where I kind of like feel out a ground plane a bit. Use that to play with a sense of 3D. I screwed myself once again by placing it at the top of the page. I'm going to need a new page, but I'll try to move this down a bit so I can get more of the drawing in. So maybe like just gonna make his arms like a ring right here. Simplify that entire shape as just a ring. For the gesture here. I don't think this is as successful as it could have been, partly because I sort of crammed myself in the side of the page. But there's stuff going on with this that I kind of like. Let's get rid of this other stuff so I can make a new page. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
You've got 6 minutes and 8 seconds to go.
Kitty, about like 4 more poses. No, 3 more poses, I would say. So there's 2 figures here. Maybe I'll try to do them both. Let's try to do them quickly. Something like how I would do it in a 10-second pose session. I am very curious to see if like how people here would respond to 10-second poses. That is definitely something you need to work up to. They can kick your butt. So like that's an example of like a 10-second pose or something. You draw them like almost like Japanese calligraphy. But it's a fantastic way to simplify your approach to gesture and understanding how to tell story and action with simplicity for your figure drawing. Like this stuff becomes the guts of the characters and the realistic figures you draw. Yeah, there is some good stuff going on with this guy. I think there's better stuff that's going on with the pose I drew, but like this feels nice. Has a good flow to it. It's a good study. It's just I know where I kind of cramped up here. So I'm definitely feeling a good flow with these for sure. Let's maybe draw like a few more of these in there. Just directional lines there. Alright, this guy. Let's see what I can do about him. I've drawn this guy before. Some poses in here that I've seen from going back years. But I'm kind of on a roll right now with this simplified approach that I'm using to kind of feel out the characters, and as I get kind of more on a roll with it, I'm going to be able to play with exaggerating stuff and inventing more story in what I'm drawing. And you saw examples of this in the stuff that I did like 5 or 6 years ago in that page that I showed you. Some of that muscle memory of me doing those classes is coming back, and that's part of why I've chosen to start teaching my classes like this, so I can get the best of myself to come out again, and then push myself beyond that. I'm just playing with it now. I'm doing this kind of weird stuff, drawing on top of the figure to kind of find different opposing rhythms of the body a little bit. This is my own personal notation. These aren't supposed to be actual muscles or anything. It's kind of just searching out the rhythms and the flow of certain aspects of the figure. Shrink that down and move it. I drew that guy a little too big, I think. Alright, so this lady I'm going to go back to the Glenn Vilppu approach. Head, C-curve neck. Just get a nice tilt for the shoulders. Get a counterposed torso there. Really emphasize it. She's got her hips out way far, so I'm just going to stylize that. And because her legs aren't there, I'm just going to do this. All the way down to the bottom of the figure, like that. Then I'm going to maybe make a circle down here to create kind of a ground plane effect going on here with her at the center. Let's stick her foot out there a little bit. And now I can do the arms. Let's do something like this. It's emphasizing the gesture of the hands here. Her hands are acting tools for the attitude of her pose. Some of these poses you can see are a little bit more active than others, and other ones, as you get more used to this method, your observation skills of playing with these poses, you can try inserting attitude and acting into them. Oh, this is a bad pose. Get off the screen. That's a good pose. That's a cyberpunk cosplayer. Okay, Google, stop. We'll actually pause it here. You can draw this lady or not, but we might use her as the start of our next pose session. Yeah, I think that made the torso a little thick on this lady, but I like the overall feel of it. And that ground plane was definitely successful. But you can see, like, I'm using this kind of like relating the foot to the other foot sort of thing to create this kind of pseudo ground plane. And if I want to go over it some more, I can like add like little lines that kind of imply there's like a vanishing point over that way for these, that these are going to. In this case, I just use like a bunch of lines coming out of her, so she's at the center of an ellipse. If there isn't going to be a vanishing point here, you'd probably find it something like, oh, I don't know, there's an ellipse there. Gosh, I don't know. Who cares? But it's enough to like feel a little bit more 3D now. Like it's like she's got some volume to her dress. So much of this is playing with the basics of these things. I like the guts and the nitty-gritty of stuff that is going to make up your characters and your figures and so on. Okay, Google, set timer for 4 minutes.
Okay, 4 minutes. Starting now.
Yeah, I actually really like this one. Even though I didn't really get, even though I made the torso a little too thick. I think the hips could be more stylized and stuff, but like the overall feel, I like. I like it. I like how the hands, the gesture of the acting of the hands is nice. Someone said my favorite. Someone in Twitch chat just said my favorite Sharpie just died. Rip. Also, I think someone just subbed to me. Nope. Oh, they did yesterday. That's cool. Oh yeah. For this break, I'm gonna get some water in a bit, but for this break, I'll give a quick plug to my Ko-fi page right here, which is my donation page. I'm currently working on getting a John Asaro head as my next goal, which I will be using as a teaching aid for our head drawing class. Asaro head is something that we actually studied from photographs this last Monday for my Monday figure drawing class. But here's the Asaro head. It's this guy here. It's a wonderful figure drawing, head drawing study aid tool that you'll often see at a lot of universities. That has a complex side and a simple side to it. And you can buy these for $115. I've made the goal 120 just to include like sales tax or whatever. But I'm going to be getting one of these with my next donation goal, and I'm going to be photographing. I'm going to be attaching it to a tripod and doing lit photograph reference photos for the people in my head drawing class and for the people on our Discord to use. I might even do a live thing, I might even do a test out of a webcam approach to doing this stuff where I like have time poses and then I just pose the Asaro head in different poses every time for every one of the sessions or something. And also it's going to be a study drawing tool for me that I'm going to practice at home physically myself and get better at using so I can break it down for people in my head drawing class. So that's our next goal for my donation goal. Right now, I'll link my Ko-fi page in Twitch chat and in Discord. I'm going to get some water and hit the restroom, and then I'll be back with you all. And we're back. Alright, so this lovely lady Awesome Cyberpunk 2077 cosplay. We're gonna start with her. So we'll start the timer now. Okay, Google, set timer for 25 minutes.
25 minutes, and that's starting now.
And here we go. Let's have fun. I see someone in chat has said I need anatomy classes. Well, you're in the right place, because we're going to be doing that this next 3-class semester. I'm going to be, one of the classes I'm going to be teaching is going to be a figure drawing class where we will be touching on anatomy. Very simplified anatomy, though, mind you. I do want to do more in-depth anatomy stuff. But before you get into really nitty-gritty anatomy, you need to understand the gesture and the structure, the basic structure of it, of what you're drawing. So I'll be taking a very functional anatomy approach with simplified forms, at least initially, and then we'll start getting more in-depth. So there's a Dutch tilt camera angle going on here. I'm just playing with this right now because there's a lot of conflicting information because of the lighting that's going on in this shot. So I'm just kind of trying to play with a pose here and invent something based on what I'm seeing. It's an opportunity to draw a little box for a gun. I remember one guy who was like, we had a model with a bunch of gun props, and there was this one guy who during a figure model session, he kept drawing the guns as hot dogs, just over and over again. Asked him why he was drawing them as hot dogs, and he said, "I don't like to draw guns." Okay. Well, he was being very tongue-in-cheek about it, but he was just doing it for fun. But it's more like he didn't really practice guns, is the thing, and so he didn't want to pressure himself, and he just wanted to kind of make fun of the fact that he was dog shit at drawing guns. So prop drawing will definitely be a thing that I need to get more into in the future for sure, though. I mean, it's kind of inevitable, especially if you're trying to do kind of animate style action drawing. At some point there's going to be characters with guns, so you might as well study how they work at some point. It's like this lady with a sword here. You want to study how swords work. Sort of getting a little bit too zoomed in here when I should be zoomed out. I'm trying to get the whole figure at once. That is something that I want to fight doing by drawing traditionally a lot next semester from my drawing pad, because you can't zoom in and out on a drawing pad. You can sit back further and closer kind of gauge yourself at various ranges, but you won't cut yourself off from your field of view the way you can when you zoom in or zoom out or whatever in drawing programs. Oh, also I have access to Photoshop again, so I'll be using that. That was one of my donation goals. I was getting a year's subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud with my last donation goal, so I have that now. I have the key for it. A prepaid year subscription that I bought. from a key flipper, legitimately. And so yeah, I'll be able to use like all the Adobe programs again for a year. I actually might buy another key from him too, so I can stack those for 2 years. But yeah, there's a bunch of Photoshop stuff. I have a bunch of Photoshop tutorials I also bought recently from a really awesome dude who I'll give a plug for later. Trent Kanuga or something. I forget how to pronounce his last name. But he's a awesome former Blizzard artist. He has an amazing YouTube and amazing Gumroad full of tutorials and stuff. And I want to kind of glean some stuff from him because I love his approach to drawing and breaking down stuff. Like, I'm an animator, but there's very playful animator-oriented things that he covers with what he talks about. So I want to get some value from him, and he also has like some workflow tips for Photoshop that I want to kind of learn from. Likewise, I'm on the hunt right now for some Clip Studio Paint workflow things, Clip Studio EX, because I'm still going to be using Clip Studio. I like Clip Studio. I'm going to go back and forth between it and Photoshop, depending on what I want to do. Or if I'm getting too stodgy in one, I'll go to the other. Because the feel of the brushes in Clip Studio is pretty nice. I'm rewinding the synthwave, the Royalty 3 synthwave mix. So this is session 3, I think, right? Is this 3 or is this 4? So we're gonna get to 5 sessions, I think. I'm pretty sure this is session 3, right? Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
T-minus 17 minutes and 54 seconds.
Nice. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is session 3, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. What time is it? Yeah, we will keep going to at least 8:30, I would say. So maybe at least one more session after this. But I hope people are enjoying this. For those of you who have like attended figure drawing stuff in the past, who are more experienced than others here, I hope you're getting a decent workout doing this. For newcomers, I hope you're getting your earliest first exposure to observation drawing and trying to maybe pick up a thing or two from how I'm drawing right now about how to approach the figure in these time poses. Like, you don't have to copy me, just keep in mind that I'm playing with what I'm doing. And you're free to play with what you're doing too. In the future, I'll give more like consistent systems to work with for people here. So we'll have specific exercises to do. Like one of my favorite is the tornado, which I've shown before. We'll be doing maybe a whole session of that, which is a concentric circle approach to drawing the figure, which is great for visualizing volumes. There's the bow and arrow approach to figures, which is using a straight and a simple straight and a simple curve to create gestural figures. There's the approach of creating a tonal mass, of like a mass of where the figure exists in, and then drawing the figure within that mass. That's where you start with, like, you could start with like pastels or pens or something, create this area of like this, of a single color that kind of envelops the space that the figure occupies. And then you go back in through with a different color to create the figure within it. There's the continuous line exercise. There's the where you draw what you're seeing without picking your pencil off the page. So this is a cosplay that's Geralt of Rivia with Cyberpunk 2077, and it kind of makes me want to basically make my first Cyberpunk character a Geralt lookalike. But I'll probably try to make my guy look like a 1950s dad for my space dad persona. Like the idea of like a space alien dad who's very out of place in the cyberpunk world. Traipsing around the mean streets of Night City. Cyberpunk 2077 is a fantastic looking game, and I can't wait to dig into it. I'm getting a beastly computer built, and I'm waiting on the motherboard to arrive this weekend that I'm going to be doing a lot of Blender animation work on in the near future. Here's the Blender grease pencil with the 2D, 3D stuff you can do with it now. Oh, that's another thing I want to mention. I'm putting together a group here. It's not really a class, but it's like kind of like a meta class. That's a animator peer pressure group, where for it's an animator anti-procrastinator group, basically. Where it doesn't matter what you're animating, but you got to be animating something. And we might do weekly challenges or something along those lines. I'm still trying to work that out. But I'm going to be using the animator corner in our Discord. And I'm going to be hanging out there a lot. And I want anyone who wants to be an animator to be spending a lot of time hanging out there. And we will try to peer pressure you into animating every day, if possible. Because you want to be really diligent about your animation studies and your animation work. And I have been falling off the wagon over and over again about keeping up with my animation practice. No more. I'm creating a peer pressure group where we all peer pressure each other to keep animating. There will be more info on that to come in the future, but for now, if you see me in the Discord, in the animator corner, hanging out there, please come in and be ready to be peer pressured into animate. If you're having trouble finding the motivation to animate, tell us. We will help you find an exercise to do. We will help you find your motivation and find some inspiration. Maybe look at some cool shit that will get you fired up. Maybe we'll do some impromptu studies. Maybe break out some stuff from Sakugaburu or from Disney films or something and study it and break it down. Some Cuphead animation or something. There's anything that keeps us motivated and keeps us excited about animation and keeps us animating. And as things develop, I may actually stream some of what I'm going to be doing there to here. Really depends, though. Mainly, for now, I'm sticking to classes for this, but if I have any particular projects that are worth streaming to here, I might do that in the future. I kind of don't want to discourage people from being too self-conscious about, oh shit, I'm going to be on Space Dad's stream if I'm in this voice room. Oh shit, I'm getting performance anxiety. Oh, I don't want to animate. Oh, I want to keep out of the room. I feel nervous about that. So I don't want that to happen. I want people to feel on target and motivated. I want people to have the ability to come there, and if they like, you know what? Maybe you just want to be in the room just for moral support. Because turning off the audio to concentrate when you're animating is also highly recommended. Maybe you come into the room and you're like, I have something I'm going to really concentrate on, but I'm just going to hang out in the voice room, not even going to stream. I'm going to self-deafen because I really want to concentrate on like this tough scene I'm trying to work on for animation. I'm going to do the Richard Williams milk call thing of just unplugging. But I'm going to be in there for moral support. And I'll just be in the room, self-deafened. And then later on, when I've put in my efforts and come up for air, I'll unmute and undeafen and share what I'm working on maybe with the other people there. And of course, if you just like really need to concentrate, like you can't even have your attention divided in the slightest, feel free to disconnect from the server and concentrate on what you're working on, and then come back. But if you're struggling to stay motivated, come back to the room, talk with us, work stuff out, share your stuff. Ask for a roundup for ideas for exercises you can do. Getting a little sloppy here, to be honest. Let's see if I can reel it back in a bit. Yeah, that shoulder tilt, if I'd been more conscious of that, I would have made it like this. And then the hips more like this. Let's reel it back in now. Sometimes your concentration can wander when you're doing these, and that's okay. Just reel it back in. My concentration wandered because I was talking with y'all about something that I'm excited about, which is the animator peer pressure group. I don't even know what I'm going to call it yet. I think just calling it that and then just having people show up in the animator corner would be good enough. And we'll just tell people in there, hey, you're in the right place if you want to be peer pressured into animating every day. Yeah, everyone who's in here, if you're an animator and you want to work on animation, or you want to get the or you haven't been animating lately and you want to find the motivation to animate, come to the animator corner. Start hanging out there in our Discord. We'll be wrestling together with finding the motivation to stay animated. And you know what? You know what's cool? There's a lot of pro animators that come in and out of our Discord. They always show up whenever they see, they always show up and stick around whenever they see lots of people in the animator corner who are talking shop about animating and working on animation. They like vibing with other people that are motivated. So, you good little boys and girls we'll get some pro industry animators hanging out and talking shop and sharing secrets with you in our Discord. The more of us that show up regularly in the Animator Corner. Let's make awesome stuff. Let's troubleshoot the problems we're working through and the barriers that are keeping us from getting the results we want in our animation. Let's critique each other's work and try to problem solve stuff. Let's have a blast looking at stuff that inspires us and studying it. Let's chill out and hang and animate in Discord. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
T minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Cool, 2 more poses. So the second to last one, I'd say. Or, actually I think technically 3 poses. Here, I'm gonna go for this one. I'm gonna maybe see if how much I can exaggerate this one. Let's maybe make that elongated head. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try exaggerating this pose a lot. So I'm kind of feeling it with this, so I'm thinking we might do 2 more sessions of this. And I do like the 2-minute pace we're sticking with for this entire session. So I'm thinking we'll do 2 more sessions after this of 25-minute poses. 25 minutes of 2-minute poses. To answer Leiju draws, yeah, I mean, like, the Animator Corner hasn't really been used extensively in this new way that I'm kind of exploring now. The Animator Corner just kind of existed, but I'm having trouble, like, maintaining regularly animating, and I know a lot of other people are. There's a lot of great, like, motivation for just drawing in this server, but we need more motivation for animators and animating in the server, for the animators that are here, like myself. And that's what the Animator Corner is going to be about now. Come there to get your motivation to animate with all of us. We will troubleshoot stuff that you can do and that we can do for our own personal work or for our own self-improvement. Studies, fun stuff. Like I said, I really like the idea of doing impromptu, like, Sakugaburu study stuff just in there, just out of nowhere. Like, not even an announced workshop. We'll just, like, oh, let's just grab something from Sakugaburu and we'll study it right now. That's why I said that, like, that room would be treated like kind of like a meta class. Like, we're just going to be going in and out of, like, different levels of intensity of learning in there from time to time. It's kind of the way that the other drawing channels kind of work. Like, sometimes people will go, like, into full critique demo mode in those channels on drawing stuff usually, or writing workshop stuff for, like, comics authors and other things. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer? Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
There's 45 seconds remaining.
I'm going to pause it at this lady here. I'm actually going to set the break right now. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
Second timer for 5 minutes. Starting now.
So this is the pose we're gonna start with for the next session. So how are people feeling? Do you think you can go for another 2 sessions or another one session of 25 minutes of 2-minute poses? Or do you think that this is a pretty satisfying amount? Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
T minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Cool. Oh, awesome. Somebody is, well, not a donation yet, but somebody followed me on Ko-fi. Very nice. Thank you. Hot dog, I would suggest drawing a little larger and a little bit more confident. You try to pull longer strokes where you're not sketching and scribbling so much. ZZZZ, yeah, you're getting some pretty good results. There's some wonky stuff happening where you're getting a little confused on some of the poses too. But, I mean, the more of these you do, the more exposure you'll get to these kind of poses. But there is some good stuff going on in those. Triple Z, I think there's your name. ZZZ. Oh yeah, the lemon slice that they were talking about the other day. I have seen some, that's where that's coming. Who is teaching the lemon slice method of this thing right here? Ethan's not here, Skull. Sorry. He sometimes comes to the Discord, but he mostly does his own thing. I mean, a lot of it is about mileage. I think the best way to learn, aside from like doing what we're doing here, is to enroll in a figure drawing class taught by a really good instructor who would be much better than me. But at least, at the very least, I can act as a glorified group study lead to help a lot of people dip their toes into this stuff. But there's only so much I can do because I'm doing these classes for free, and also I'm kind of an amateur instructor. I am from the animation industry, and I am traditionally trained and stuff, but I'm not trained to be an instructor. What I'm doing here is almost kind of like me building up my experience and my ability to teach other people too and run classes like these. So when I eventually get my shit together and get really good at art and stuff in the future, through to a higher degree of competence than I have now, then I'll have like an experience built up already of teaching classes to people that I could make legit, that I could teach legit classes of in the future. Shredder's asking for feedback. Oh, did you post in here? I can't guarantee that I'm going to give feedback because there's an awful lot of people posting, but if you could repost. His chat's going pretty fast right now. Oh, here you are. some of these are kind of a good start, but okay, Google, stop. Some of these are kind of a good start, but you could push gesture a little bit more. You could push the line of action some more. Like, I think you're getting too tangled up into details, like on this, for example. You could really start with just the C curve. On that one pose, for example. Like, a lot of these are starting to get kind of confused and stuff. If you can distill the pose into like those Japanese cuneiforms I'm talking about and design them really nicely, then that would be a good way to build your confidence on your approach, instead of getting caught up into complicated details. That's what I'm doing, if you notice. I'm going back and forth between adding more detail and less. So anyway, I'm going to plug my coffee again in case anyone would like to donate. I'm going to post that in chat and Twitch chat and Discord. And every little bit helps. You're not obligated to give. These classes are free. But if you like what I'm doing and you want to support me, the money that you donate goes to materials and things that are going to help me run these classes better. So, without further ado, we're going to set the timer for another session. We might do 2 more sessions or 1 more session. It depends how we all feel after this one, because this is pretty exhausting, and it is getting close to... It's going to be like 8:45 by the time we finish this, which means we will have been in this class for like over 3 hours. So I don't know if we want to do 2 more sessions, but we will do this one. Okay, Google, set timer for 25 minutes. Because I don't want to...
25 minutes, starting now.
I don't want to like super exhaust everyone here, and myself included. I think it might be a good idea to make this one the last one, and then end on a high note. But it depends. Like, if I'm feeling really juiced after doing this, I'm ready for another round. We'll do another round. Also, in addition to donate to my coffee, I am a Twitch affiliate, and you can support me by donating to my stream. You can also support me by just showing up for my classes, and also spreading the word about my classes so more people show up. You can also find the YouTube link to my classes, my previously recorded classes, by clicking my profile in Discord. But yeah, spread the word about Ethan Becker's Discord, which has become a free online art school. We have several different instructors that are teaching several different topics, from animation, illustration, concept art, character design, figure and head drawing. We're going to have some more figure drawing class people too in the near future, in addition to me. We have someone who's interested in teaching perspective pretty soon too. I've already taught it before, and I can teach it again if I want to. But someone who's especially good at it is... Oh, no, this is a good pose. That's a good pose. Let's use those kids for this pose, for sure. Pretty cool body language on these little pose child actor kids. Child model, whatever. Big ol' C curve with a girl on the right. This makes me kind of want to see a cartoon with some kids in a laser tag tournament or something. So the approach I'm going to be using now for future classes is most of the work is going to be done during the class, and then I will have suggested, if you want to continue like practicing what we practiced in the class throughout the week, you can rewatch my class, and I will also give suggestions for homework. I'm going to do that after this. My suggestions for homework after this class. If you're developing a character, gather reference poses and then try drawing your character on the poses. And also I want people to get in the habit of gathering folders of poses like these to do drawing sessions like what I'm doing right now on your own. I do sessions like these on my own that aren't broadcast a lot of times. I actually do them a lot with art nudes because I can't really do that through the stream. That's another thing. If you're studying art, at some point you're going to have to get heavy into art nudes. It's just inevitable. And we can't really do that right now through either Twitch or through the main areas of the Discord. But in the future, we're going to find some way of doing art nudes. Honestly, art nudes, though, those might be something that's would be more for like a paid course. Because that stuff we have to have more of a safety, more safety constraints on that, because we don't want minors participating in those. For some of these, you can maybe include a bit of the background, like that. There's 3 poses here, and there's a really wild background, but I'm just going to maybe stick to like quick cuneiforms of the poses. After I get a gesture drawing curriculum together a little bit more for next week, on Wednesday, a character-driven gesture drawing curriculum together, which is what the Wednesday classes are going to morph into. I will actually do more demos showing off the cuneiform stick figure approach that people can utilize. Because you can go even simpler than what I'm doing right now. And you can do them like, you can start with like longer poses of those, but then you can like whittle it down to like 10-second and 5-second poses. There's been like I've seen stuff where like people will do like thumbnail size 1-second poses. That's wild. I actually have never done that before, but I've seen it. They're done really quickly. They're like really, really small. They're like paperclip size little tiny things, and they're like really, really small gestures. I think we're going to end it on a high note, and this will be the last session for the evening. Because I feel like I'm feeling good with this, but I feel like if I push myself too far, I'm gonna exhaust myself. So this will be the last session that we do for this lovely evening. You can look forward to many more sessions just like this in the future. Oh, and what I have planned for the rest of this week, Friday will be the last meeting of the 6-week animation class. We're doing deadline, turn-in on the walk cycles, and we'll have a big party. Everyone's going to be turning their walk cycles. I'll do a some little last-minute suggestions and demo stuff. I'm going to be compiling a short film of everyone's walk cycles. So please hand those in. In the animation class section of my personal section on the Discord. If you aren't able to hand it in there, don't worry. I'll show you where you need to. If you aren't able to hand it in before class, don't worry. I'll show you where you can hand it in during the class. We'll worry about that then. But just work on finishing your walk cycles as best you're able to, and turn those in. But it'll be the first short film our Discord has made. Just like tons of people, a lot of you are first-time animators. So even if it's all really wonky and wrong, just do your best. I might give you some last-minute critique to maybe touch it up or whatever. And we'll be making a short film compiling clips of all the character walks and the walk tests that people have done this semester. I will actually not be teaching animation classes this next semester because we have another fantastic teacher named Nils who usually teaches on Tuesdays in the morning Pacific time, but there's also recorded replays of her classes. She's a French feature film animator who also teaches at Goblin's. In the future, I will go back to teaching animation. I need a semester where I've got me time on the animation that I'm doing. That's why I'm forming the peer pressure group, the peer pressure animator group. That's why I said it was like a meta class. It's a motivational class to get all of us to be regularly drawing and animating, and to think like animators. More of the time. And when I feel ready to return to teaching animation classes, I will. But you will still be able to get demos from me and tips from me and stuff if you hang out in the animator corner. And the classes that I teach now are going to be emphasizing a lot of what we're doing right here. Time figure posing, and also talking about, I'll be going in more depth to give people starting points and framework to do these exercises and stuff in future classes. My classes are going to be more about doing and getting the drawing mileage in. It's all about sharpening the axe, so we can chop more trees with our axe. Instead of having a dull axe, it's not going to chop very many trees. We're sharpening our visual communication skills so that when we sit down to do our characters, or we sit down to animate, we'll be in a much stronger spot. And I'll be also doing stuff like in the gesture drawing class, I for sure will be doing action studies of like footage from live action. In addition to this kind of the stuff you're seeing here, where we'll be finding gesture drawing out of footage of live action and action scenes. or action moments and stuff. And by action scenes, I don't mean like fighting. I don't mean always fighting stuff. It could mean like dialogue scenes. It could mean footage from real life of just like real life things happening, or like just mundane actions that are just really interesting. Like it could be a footage of somebody getting out of a chair. But we could like do choreographed fight animation study, fight action studies and things like that too in this class. What about rotoscoped animation? What about it? Well, that's something you would want to study and do on your own. That's not really something I mean, I could do a demo of that, but rotoscoped animation is more of a study. I would consider rotoscope animation more of a study tool than it would a means to do animation, although it can be used for animation in a lot of cases. Disney used rotoscoping as this tool and a starting point. They eventually like moved away from like straight up rotoscoping things and like interpreting the actions of the characters after doing rotoscope studies. You start with a rotoscope study, and then you can kind of riff on what you learned from doing the rotoscope study, the rotoscope live action study, because you understand the action. And so you'll see a lot of like actually studies that Disney animators did that are like rotoscoped from the extensive live action footage they took of actors performing the scenes in all of those classic Disney feature films. And you'll see like footage of the animations rotoscoping tests that they did over those actors, and then you'll also see like in the Disney Archive stuff that they shared with the public, you'll see like the rough animation they did. I think Frank and Ollie's Illusion of Life has some examples of literally that in it, actually, like showing how first they understand the action through like the rotoscoping reference studies that they were doing, and then they apply it to this exaggerated character that they like play at, and that's kind of what we're getting at with this right here. This is like not from footage, this is from posing that we have here. But this is the same kind of idea. We're interpreting what we're seeing. We're not drawing over the stuff with like rotoscoping though. Here though, we're interpreting what we're seeing. So sometimes you may go like more exaggerated and distorted, and sometimes you may go like really contained. I'll actually see if I can maybe show some examples of like the kind of exercises that we're going to be doing at a much higher level after I get done here. And there's a few sites I can point to for people to get stuff from. Like there's this one site that I think some people here know about called Tuesday Tips, which is a long-running free series of figure drawing advice. Figure drawing and just drawing advice in general from some Disney animator folks. Some people with Disney animator backgrounds who have like created a fantastic series of like tips and stuff you can concentrate on, and a body of work from that you can use as a guidebook, for almost as like a figure drawing manual. And if you collect enough of their notes together, I'll show some of that after we get done with this. Really helps that they have really beautiful expressive drawings for those too. I think because those people are offering like free stuff, we might actually take more of a look at them as part of our classes in the future too. But yeah, we'll take a peek at those after we get done with this session. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer? Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
There's 7 minutes and 17 seconds remaining.
Nice. So I want to say about four to five more poses, probably. But this has been a good session. These were very meaty amount of drawing for me, for sure. And I hope that you've all got something out of this too. I'd like, your homework will be to try to do some of this stuff on your own. Start collecting photos of like costume figures and, well, it's also nudes if you're going to be doing art nudes. And start like doing timed poses of them, or slow down and do like gesture studies of them for longer periods of time. Like maybe you're going to take about 5 minutes to break down the gesture stuff. In the future, we're going to be varying up the timing that we do these quick poses with quite a lot. I wanted to stick to 2s for the entire session because we got a good rhythm going with these. So let's see, I only got about a minute, so this can be a minute pose. Let's try this. I'm going to maybe try to push for story on this to give some examples of what you can do when you get more into storytelling with these. So I'm choosing to bring his arm out more here. I made his legs small from a big cartoony axe, because this is a cartoon character version of that dude. Our first attempt at playing with the shapes like that. Wow. That lady's really, really up in your face with that right there. Let's take this opportunity to maybe play with this lady's props. So I'm gonna maybe just do this. Do like a silly cartoon version of her. That huge hand in the foreground, I'm really going to emphasize that. She's got that giant boom box. I'm going to maybe beef up the size even bigger, and maybe like exaggerate and distort it a bit. How much time we got? Ooh, I'm gonna actually reset the timer on that one. Give us a little more time to play with this character. Got a knob here. Whoops. Put that knob here. So I'm going to be changing the pose when I feel satisfied with this, so be careful for that. Be ready for that. Could happen any second. print some legs down there for her. Yeah, that's an example of the kind of stuff you can do with this. Let's see what I can do with this dude. I'm just gonna have some fun. Let's get a micro head now. Oh, this will be the last puzzle. Okay, Google, stop. So I kind of maybe want to end it here, because I'm kind of detecting that if I go too much further, I'm just going to get sloppy. Like, I am playing with this and having fun, but I personally feel like if I go too much further with this first session back into this type of drawing, it's going to maybe go too much too soon for me. So I'm going to end it here. But thank you all for coming. I'm going to give one more last plug to my Ko-fi page. After I get done here, one sec. So as advertised, once again, this is my Ko-fi page if you want to. Oh, here. Oh, got someone following me. Thank you, Red Ghost. So I'm currently working on getting the John Asaro head so we can have a real live Asaro head to practice from for my head drawing classes. And I'll be taking photos and maybe even trying some webcam stuff of it in the future. Let's see here. The Asaro head, if you want to buy one for yourself, highly recommended. They're $115 for the classic Asaro head. You can find them on planesofthehead.com. I'll copy that for chat for you. Strongly recommended art learning tool. I can't really speak to how good the planar figures are that he offers. There's other planar figures you can get out there, but these look pretty darn good. But a lot of drawing courses that I've seen, and some I've taken over the years, make extensive use of the Asaro head. So that's the way I'm using this as a teaching tool. And in fact, if you go to my YouTube page, right here, and you check out my Monday class, Asaro Aesthetic, you will be able to see us using the Asaro head for practice sessions of timed 25-minute poses. And in fact, if you watch this replay, you can follow along and try it out for yourself. You can also see my previous head drawing classes through my YouTube, and learn the guts, like that Loomis head that I'm starting with right there for breaking this down. You can learn the guts of what goes into drawing and studying from these guys before you work yourself up to drawing the full complex Asaro head. These things are designed to kick your butt, and you're supposed to keep drawing and memorizing them and redrawing them over and over again. So we're going to be coming back to this guy a bunch in my head drawing class. I wanted to share that. This session that we've been on today will be also replayed on YouTube later, and you'll be able to check that out. And if you want to, you can follow the same poses again that we played here. I would say just for the homework, I'm not going to actually post a text page of the homework, but I'm going to say collect your own images, draw your own character, your own characters that you've designed, or existing characters, like maybe you take Mickey Mouse or some anime model sheets, like from, I don't know, Devilman Crybaby or something, and you try to draw the characters from that. Oh, that's cool. Oh, Red Ghost, thank you for the support. Awesome. From Red Wraith on Discord. I love your session. I hope someday I can get some feedback on post stuff from you, so I can hope to be able to attend your coming. So I hope to be able to attend your coming streams. That's cool, dude. You gave me some support, so I'll have to give you some. I'll have to give you some feedback for sure. In fact, do you have any posts of your stuff in chat? I can take a peek real quick before I end the session. Yeah. Thank you for the support. Yeah, I am now 20% of my $120 goal for the Asaro head. So that'd be cool. After this, there's the other equipment I'm going to get. I think there's another tablet. There's another digital drawing tablet that I think I'm going to be after. Either that, or else I'm going to make a goal about some traditional materials I need to pick up for myself. Like some Conte pencils that I'm going to be using for the next semester of classes. But I'll see what I need first and prioritize stuff. Anyway, yeah, thank you for the support. I'll be sure to type a thank you message here in a second. But yeah, I think they might have left. Oh, there they are. They're typing in chat. Yeah, like this thing right here, I strongly recommend you pick it up. It's $115. You can also, if you're not ready for the Asaro head, the big Asaro head, you can get the memorized head for $65, which is the simplified Asaro head, and that's also recommended to pick up. I'm planning on eventually getting that as well, because that's a good thing to practice from as well. Here's the memorized head right here. We actually studied this we actually studied a 3D model of this in one of our head drawing sessions. The simplified planes of the head versus the complex classic Asaro head right here that has the simple and the complex sides right here. It also comes with a little manual of how to break down the shapes a little better, which is nice. Yeah, Hobo, I've actually got to use more sharp angles. Sometimes I have a tendency to like either favor one or the other depending on things. In the course of mileage, I kind of want to get a good rhythm going with both. Alright, I think we're going to end it here in a bit. I will actually... oh, this is a really cool... This is actually a really cool pose, one of the laser tag poses. I'll put it on screen. I really like that. That's actually a nice pose by that lady there. That's pretty cool. That could be used easily as reference for some kind of cool concept art piece and stuff. But yeah, I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you all for coming. Your support is very appreciated. And I will... I'll give you guys the congratulations screen as our outro. So here we go. Congratulations. Oops.
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!